just like Christmas at my house today, apart from the fact that I know what I've bought and I'm the one that had to pay for it, but it's still good to see all the stuff turn up. So we've got everything. Thanks Ethel and Julie at JCM Direct Tyres down in Christchurch. Fantastic set of rims, and instead of the traditional white wall tyres, they're blue wall tyres. They look awesome. Yet to be painted. That will happen when the Caravan gets done. Hubs are re-drilled, ready for the new studs, brand new studs. Gone and bought myself all new wheel bearings. This is pretty rare to see. So these are Imperial wheel bearings, made in USA. They came at a eye-watering cost to keep everything original on this trailer. But that's part of the cost of doing restoration instead of renovation, right? New seals, the works. So tonight I'll take you through the steps of changing wheel bearings and installing new studs. You'll probably see a couple of notches out of the inside. That's to help get the bearings back out. So I tap them out with a punch or a chisel, that's no problem, but when we cut them back in, the new ones, we're going to tap them in with something soft. In my case, will be a round piece of plastic. Bearings are out, all nice and clean. Wiped it out with petrol to dissolve the grease. That was pretty grim for those of you out there that are into those videos where they're digging out old earwax. It was like digging out 50-year-old earwax. I think that was about the last time I was greased. An Imperial wheel bearings, if you are replacing with these, make sure you take the outer race and the inner race, the old ones, down. They'll match the numbers because they come as separate pieces and there are different sizes. So when you're putting your bearings in, make sure that you're not tapping steel on steel, that you have a dolly. Like a plastic dolly is pretty ideal, or a piece of brass or aluminium, something that's not going to potentially damage those bearings. Other thing to make sure is the area is really nice and clean. You don't want any contamination getting into brand new bearings. And that's it. Let's tap these things in. Alright, bearing shells are in on both sides. Now we'll get ready to put the rolling element in. People tend to be under the false impression that the first thing you do is absolutely jam-pack these things full of grease. That's not the right thing to do. The only thing you'll do by doing that is actually overheat the bearing, because it needs some room to move to be able to eliminate the heat that gets built up during. So we'll use a grease gun, we'll fill the cartridge or the bearing full of grease. We'll grease all the other elements to make sure nothing internal goes rusty, but we're not going to jam pack the thing. We'll do it right. Okay, new studs are in. If you happen to break a stud when you're on the side of the road, it's really easy to fix. Often the stud will be quite short, so really all you've got to have is hopefully in your Caravan you'll have a hammer for tapping your pegs in and out. Just have to tap the old stud out, and then get your new stud and literally wind it back in. You should be able to do this with your wheel brace, or if you can get the hammer in from the back, you should be able to get it in the back and just tap the new one in and wind it in with your wheel brace with your wheel on. Then your new stud's installed. So they come in two sizes. These are 1/2 inch UNF, or you get 7/16 UNF. So it's either going to be 12.7mm or 11.1 millimeter in diameter, and that's how you can tell the difference. I picked these up from super cheap. They were $28 for a pack of 5, so they're not too bad, easy to replace. Time to do the final fitting of the hub. I'll show you what the easiest things to do and check when you're doing this. Pretty simple setup. So here's our stub shaft. Make sure that everything's got a light coating of grease. That's for a couple of reasons. One is to stop the shaft going rusty. The other just makes it a little bit easier to assemble. So then we're going to fill this bearing cavity in the last little front bearing. Okay, we'll make sure that's got right inside the bearing. Once again, you want to make sure that there's a reasonable amount of grease in there, but not to the point where it's full. If the whole cavity is full of grease, that's quite a bad thing. So when tightening up the bearing, give a nut a bit of a tighten. You'll feel that the bearing's tight, and then you want to back it off. Basically one turn until you're free spinning. Right, you don't want any play in that bearing, but you want it to be spinning free. We'll fit our little split pin that stops the nut coming undone. We'll bend that over to lock it off. And that's about it, that's done. So you'll see that when you go to the warrant place, they'll jack your trailer up and they're wiggling the tyre back and forth and they're rotating it around. That's to make sure that there's no bearing noise, meaning your bearing's worn, and also that it's there's no bearing play, meaning your wheel doesn't wobble around. 7 weeks worth of work, $3,000 later. One chassis that's ready to roll. So next stage, get this chassis up, put it back under the body, get it bolted back together. Looking forward to this. I'll have a breakdown of the costs at the end of the video so you can see where all the money went. Almost back to where we started, so everything's off the blocks now. It's down on the chassis. Just going to be pulling the frame square to the chassis now. No, the chassis is good, it's parallel, it's square. And then the other thing we'll be checking for is to make sure that the door gets parallel when we screw everything down. So be using these nice big screws to hold it down. It'll be going nowhere.